My name is Hannah, and I've got a quiz to start off. Can anybody tell me who any of these men are, or what their products are? Any ideas? I can pretty much guarantee you've used one of them today. Any ideas? Got a few clues. Give you their names. Any ideas? It's kind of what I thought. See if that helps. Yeah, everyone knows who he is, don't they? Nope? Okay. Well, they are the founders of Google and Twitter. The two men up the top, they're the founders of Google, and these four of Twitter. And in 2012 alone, they had combined revenues of well over $55 billion. That's a third of the entire education budget for the UK. To put this in further context, I've taken their entire net worth, and they're over 275 billion US dollars. That's about the size of a small country. It's just smaller than the GDP of the Kingdom of Tonga, which is a small collection of islands just in the Pacific Ocean near New Zealand. But what I'm asking today is, how has the internet changed how we think? If I had £1 for every time I heard someone complain about the concentration span of my generation, I would be as rich as the internet guys who seem to have caused it with their weirdly addictive sites. However, this got me thinking. If the internet can change how we think in such a short amount of time, then what else can it do? And more importantly, what else has it done? Which fits in nicely with tonight's theme, Define Possible. Now, how long would you guess that someone of around my age spends on media or online each day? Yeah. Ofcom claims that we spend 9 hours a day on media. So that's all TV, computers, texting, everything. Over a lifetime, this comes to about 30 years. But I'm just interested in the influence of the internet. And I estimate that someone of around my age spends about 5 hours a day online. So this means between the ages of 12 and 21, so that's secondary school and university, we spend approximately 20,000 hours online, which is 836 days. Now, our relationships with computers are changing in other ways. We're now even beginning to be able to communicate with them. Not only can we control robots with our thoughts, but computers are beginning to understand us. In a recent study done with researchers from universities from Oxford, Geneva, and California, they managed to extract data such as where the subject lived, their date of birth, and even their PIN number, without the subjects knowing. Now, while these studies have got quite a low success rate at the moment of only between 10 and 40%, it really highlights the questions that we need to be asking about our relationships and the safety and ethical implications that this has. Another thing that's been asked a lot recently is looking at the neuroplasticity of the brain. So that's how easily it can change. And the conclusion that the scientists have come to is that our brains can still adapt well into adulthood. And this means that it's definitely possible for the extensive use of the internet to physically change our brains. Now, some people say that it's ruining social skills and diminishing attention spans. However, there seems to be suggestions that it's having other effects as well. So Mark Prensky suggested that my generation are digital natives, and then the older generations are digital immigrants. So to me, the internet is instinctive. It's my native language, so I know how to process it and navigate it on new sites or programs that I've never seen before. However, for my immigrant counterparts, so for example my parents, they're not as fluent in it. It's more like learning another language, in that if you completely immerse yourself in it, it may become second nature, but it'll never be as instinctive as it is for me. Now, one thing this is really highlighted is that digital natives, such as myself, are changing the way we think. So rather than the traditional, logical, linear thinking, we're moving more towards parallel thinking patterns, or doing different things at the same time. But what does this mean? I mean, is this a good thing, a bad thing, or is this just change? I mean, one study suggested that we're no longer making the deep mental connections. However, does this mean that we're going to lose this capability? Ooh, there we go. Because if we're changing how we're thinking, then this could mean that we're losing it. But, I mean, Socrates suggested that when writing was first introduced, that we would all become stupid because we didn't have to learn anything by rote. But I think it's fair to say that didn't happen. In fact, throughout history, there has always been resistance to new ideas. When the train was first introduced, people thought that the high speeds of about 30 miles an hour would cause our organs to be squished against our ribs. Or even with the introduction of the clock, some people thought that it dissociated time from humans and that it was trying to make it a mathematically measurable entity. However, if we're thinking differently, then surely we're acting differently. We now have access to so much more information, and one area I think it's really important is education. Students are literally thinking in a different way to their teachers. But, I mean, what does this mean? Does this mean that we should stop learning facts? If we have all this information on our smartphones, is there really any point in me knowing what the capital of Uzbekistan is? Well, I mean, you can argue surely that it's a lot quicker to, might be slower to get out your phone and connect to the internet and find it out. But I can't personally imagine a situation where I need to know what the capital of Uzbekistan is in such a high-pressure environment. So what might we do with this new free time? And it's Tashkent, by the way, if anyone's wondering. Might this mean that we can shift the emphasis in teaching away from learning the nitty-gritty facts and more towards learning the methods involved? So I would argue it makes more sense to learn to academically debate and discuss all the different causes of the First World War than it does to learn all the different dates that things have happened on. The introduction of the Kindle and with reading online means that book sales and bookshops have been hit hard. However, the experience of reading online is completely different. It's detached and it's standardized. You don't get the same physical feelings as you do when you're reading a book. You don't get the smell of the paper, the experience of walking down to the bookshop or getting a lift down and picking it out. But I think that all these different aspects of it have really romanticized the experience of reading. But with less and less emphasis on reading and the physical written word, this means that it still stands as a possible impact on how my generation's relationship with the physical written word develops. But what about relationships and communication? Will it go from being asked, so where did you two meet, to, so where were you when you first got his or her message? Is it really the same feeling having a little one in your inbox as it is having eye contact with someone for the first time? As more and more of our communications happen online, the physical experience seems to be fading into insignificance. But if we're not losing the capability for deep thought and concentration altogether, but developing new ones, what can we do with all these new capabilities? How can we use these newly emerging possibilities to our advantage? It seems only time will tell. Thank you very much.